Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, so when you think billionaire, you probably picture, I don't know, tech founders, maybe Wall Street types, right?
Yeah, venture capital, IPOs, maybe old money. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But today, we're flipping that script. We're diving into a name everyone knows from the movies. Steven Spielberg.
That's right. And we're not just talking about his filmmaking genius, which is undeniable. Our mission here is really to decode the business strategy behind his, well, staggering wealth.
It really is staggering.
We're looking at how he built this fortune. Forbes puts it at about $5.3 billion as of April 2025 by doing something different. We're calling it the Assetification of Stories.
Assetification of Stories. I like that. So 5.3 billion. He didn't build like software or a social network. He built these cultural touchstones.
Precisely. And the fortune comes almost entirely from films, but it's not just about the opening weekend box office.
No, it's way beyond that.
Yeah.
We're going to unpack how he turned basically every story he touched into a long-term, almost perpetually compounding income stream. That compounding is the secret sauce, isn't it? It wasn't a lucky break. It was this deliberate, really decades-long strategy, treating films not just as projects, but as assets built to last.
Okay, let's get into that. The first huge insight, it seems, was this core financial mindset he had, like right from the beginning.
Yeah, very early on. He saw movies differently, not just art, not just entertainment, but a financial vehicle. Something designed to make money long, long after people left the cinema.
And how did that actually play out in his deals? Because that's where the rubber meets the road, right?
Absolutely. It showed up immediately in his negotiations.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of demanding, say, the biggest possible upfront directing fee, millions guaranteed in cash.
It sounds pretty good.
It does. But he consistently opted for something else. He chose to take points on the back end.
Okay, break that down for us. Points on the back end, what does that actually mean in practical terms?
It's pretty simple, conceptually. Instead of that big chunk of cash up front, he'd take a percentage, maybe a small slice, but a slice of the firm's gross revenue or its profits.
Gross, not net.
Often gross,
Yeah.
which is key. And crucially, this wasn't just for a year or two. This was potentially forever. He was basically saying to the studios, look, I believe this film will be huge and last for decades. I'll take less guaranteed money now for a piece of that long-term success.
Wow. Okay, looking back now, that seems genius, obviously. But that's a massive gamble, isn't it? Especially early in a career.
Oh, absolutely. A huge risk. Most directors, frankly, would take the guaranteed money. Why wouldn't you?
Right.
But it's a bet. A bet on the quality of the work, a bet on its cultural resonance, its staying power. And the classic example everyone points to is E.T.
E.T., of course.
He took a smaller directing fee, reportedly, but negotiated significant back-end points.
Mm-hmm.
When that film became, well, E.T.
A global phenomenon, still is.
Exactly. Yeah. That bet paid off massively, not just that year, but for decades. We're talking tens of millions over time from that one decision. The lesson seems pretty clear, doesn't it?
Don't just sell your work for a one-time fee. Own the asset. Own the upside.
Own the lifetime upside. That's the core of it.
Okay, so that makes sense for the success of individual films. But then we found this other deal, the one that just seems almost unbelievable. It goes way beyond film profit.
Yes. This is where he leverages that creative success into something even more permanent, something passive.
Get ready for this. Spielberg has a lifetime deal with Universal Studios. It grants him 2%. 2% of all revenue generated from Universal theme parks worldwide.
Yeah, let that sink in.
Wait, hang on. 2% of all revenue, not just like the E.T. ride or the Jurassic Park section?
No. The sources indicate it's across the board. Think about that.
So that's ticket sales, merchandise, food, hotels, everything. In Orlando, Hollywood, Japan, China.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And it's tied directly back to the immense value his creations, like Jurassic Park, brought to their entire theme park business. That IP became a cornerstone for them.
So this single clause, this passive income stream, what does that even generate?
The estimates we saw suggest it's easily 8 figures annually, year after year.
Wow. Just wow. He engineered a way to get paid whether he's making a movie or not.
He built an asset that pays him dividends perpetually. It puts a really interesting spin on that quote you hear sometimes attributed to him. I never thought in terms of profits, but in terms of legacy.
Right. And the beautiful irony, or perhaps the genius of it, is that by focusing so intensely on creating work with lasting cultural legacy,
things people would care about for Decades.
He inadvertently created the perfect conditions for maximum long-term compounding profit because things with real legacy last. They keep generating value.
Okay, so that focus on legacy, on lasting assets, leads us perfectly into the next phase, right? Scaling up.
Exactly. You can only direct so many movies yourself. To really multiply that income, that influence, he needed to move beyond just telling individual stories. He had to start world building.
World building, making films that weren't just films, but launch pads.
Launch pads for entire brand ecosystems. And the prime example has to be Jurassic Park.
1993.
Changed everything.
Absolutely. It wasn't just the biggest movie of that summer. It was the seed for a franchise that's now grossed, over $6 billion globally.
Incredible. And he didn't direct all the sequels, obviously. He stepped back creatively in some ways.
Right, but he remains a primary financial beneficiary. Why? Because he had ownership or significant control over the underlying intellectual property, the IP.
The IP is the real asset. The film is just the first product launch.
That's a great way to put it. Because he controlled the core asset, he benefits every time Universal sells a Jurassic World toy, every time a new sequel comes out, and critically, through that jaw-dropping 2% theme park deal we just talked about.
It all connects back. So this naturally leads to that big shift from being the director to becoming a mogul. How do you scale yourself when there are only 24 hours in a day?
Well, in 1994, he gave a pretty definitive answer. He co-founded DreamWorks SKG.
With Jeffrey Katzenberg and David Geffen, the dream team.
Indeed. And this wasn't just starting a production company. It was the ultimate scaling play. It gave him equity. It gave him power. It gave him creative influence over a whole slate of films he didn't personally direct.
So suddenly his asset base expanded dramatically.
Instantly. Think about films like Shrek, Gladiator, American Beauty, DreamWorks titles. He had a stake in their success too.
So the lesson for you, the listener, is pretty clear here. He scaled himself. Not by working harder necessarily, but by building a structure, a network DreamWorks that let his influence and his income multiply way beyond what one person could physically direct. He wasn't just making movies anymore. He was launching ecosystems.
But to command that kind of scale, you first need absolute mastery, right? That obsessive control he was known for early on must have been crucial.
Oh, definitely. You have to establish the quality, the vision first. You have to prove you know what you're doing. And the story of Jaws.
1975.
The shark movie.
Yeah, the production was famously a complete nightmare, an absolute disaster waiting to happen.
The mechanical sharks didn't work right. They kept sinking or breaking down.
Constantly. They were way behind schedule, the budget was exploding, the studio must have been panicking. He was this young director under immense pressure.
So what did he do?
He had to adapt on the fly. Since he couldn't reliably show the shark, he was forced to imply it. He cut shark scenes, used shadows, used that iconic John Williams score, used point-of-view shots, suggestion.
Building terror through what you don't see.
Exactly. And in doing so, he didn't just salvage the film. He basically invented the modern summer blockbuster formula. He turned a production crisis into a masterclass in suspense. It proved his control, his vision was essential.
That built his reputation. But you can't run an empire by micromanaging everything, can you? There's a paradox there.
There absolutely is. And that's the next crucial step in his evolution. Later in his career, once that foundation was built, he mastered the art of delegation. He turned his influence into kind of an asset factory.
An asset factory. He delegated the how, maybe, but never the what or the why, precisely. The ultimate goal remained: create assets that last. You see this perfectly with recent films like, say, Jurassic World, Dominion in 2022. He didn't direct it.
Yep.
Right? Colin Trevorrow directed that one.
But Spielberg was still heavily involved as executive producer, and crucially, he still benefits immensely from his producer credits and those foundational IP rights he established decades ago. He earned millions without being on set every day.
So he built systems, surrounded himself with trusted people.
Exactly. Elite collaborators, people he could rely on to execute the vision. This allowed his influence and his financial stake to scale massively. There's a quote we found that sums it up. The director is the captain of the ship, but sometimes the smartest captains know when to hand the wheel to someone they trust. That makes perfect sense. Delegating the execution lets you focus on the bigger picture, which brings us to maybe the ultimate asset he cultivated.
Timelessness. Legacy.
Yeah. It seems like the driving question wasn't just, will this make money, but will this matter in 20, 30 years? That focus on meaning, on enduring relevance, over just chasing the latest trend. That really defines the core value of his asset base. And the most powerful example has to be Schindler's List.
Also 1993, what a year for him.
An incredible year. But Schindler's List was obviously very different from Jurassic Park. Deeply personal, historical, profoundly serious.
And this is where the financial strategy took a unique turn, right? He famously refused any salary for directing it.
That's correct. He reportedly viewed any personal profit from telling that story, the story of the Holocaust, as blood money. He couldn't accept it.
So purely an ethical decision.
On the surface, yes. But think about the long-term impact. That ethical stance, combined with the film's immense critical acclaim and cultural impact, became arguably his most powerful asset move.
How so?
He used the firm's success, its platform, to launch the Shoah Foundation.
Which preserves Holocaust survivor testimonies.
Over 55,000 of them now. He directly linked his legacy not just to entertainment, but to profound historical memory and humanitarian purpose. That cemented his influence in a way money alone never could.
And ironically, or perhaps predictably, that moral authority amplified his influence everywhere, governments, international organizations.
Absolutely. From the White House to UNESCO. And it even casts a glow back on his fiction films. Think about E.T. or Saving Private Ryan. They contain these deep humanistic values that make the IP itself feel more important, more culturally resonant decades later.
So the cultural depth provides financial durability. They reinforce each other.
Exactly. And that influence isn't just abstract, it's an operational asset too. He founded Amblin Partners in 2015. It functions almost like a vehicle of quiet influence within the industry.
How does that work?
Through Amblin, he maintains these key strategic partnerships with the big players, Universal still, but also Netflix, Apple TV, plus RAN. It allows him to continue shaping how stories are made and distributed, maintaining creative control even as the landscape shifts. That's why he has that honorary knighthood, too. It recognizes that broader cultural and humanitarian impact, which is an intangible asset reinforcing everything else.
Okay, so we have making the asset, scaling the asset, focusing on timelessness. The final piece seems to be longevity. How do you keep it all going through decades of industry change and turbulence?
It seems he views success not as an endpoint, but more like fuel. Fuel to keep building, adapting.
Right. He doesn't seem to rest on his laurels.
Never. And he uses challenges as pivot points. We talked about the Jaws crisis forcing innovation. He turned chaos into the blockbuster playbook.
And more recently, the whole streaming revolution must have been a huge disruption.
Massive. Studios consolidating, streamers like Netflix becoming dominant. The old models were changing fast. But did he fight it? Did he complain about the death of cinema?
Doesn't seem like it.
No, he pivoted. He forged major strategic deals with Netflix, with Apple. He figured out how to package that timeless storytelling for the digital age.
But crucially, while maintaining control, right? That seems to be the constant thread.
Always. It's different from the Universal theme park deal, which was about revenue from physical assets. These streaming deals were more about ensuring his stories reach new audiences on new platforms, but structured in ways where he retained significant creative input and, you guessed it, ownership or major back-end participation, adapting the asset structure.
So if you look at his financial situation now, in 2025, that $5.3 billion net worth isn't just like stock in one company. It's diversified, deeply diversified, and structured for permanence. It's a mix of constantly flowing income streams, film royalties, those back-end percentages, producer fees, equity stakes in his companies like Amblin, and of course that evergreen Universal theme park clause ticking away. Wow.
It's an incredible financial architecture he's built. It really is. And the key takeaway, the synthesis of it all, seems to be this. True longevity isn't just about surviving crises. It's about designing systems, financial, creative, operational, that actually turn setbacks into new momentum. And then turning that momentum into something that pays you, ideally, forever. He doesn't just endure, he compounds.
He compounds, that's the word. So wrapping this up, the Assetification of Stories. It's about thinking like an owner, not just a creator. Acting like an architect, building things designed to last and generate value perpetually.
It was kind of a quiet force, wasn't it? No flashy IPO, no huge public exits, just steady, relentless compounding based on enduring quality and smart structure.
The wealthiest legacies, it seems, are indeed the ones built to last. He focused on making things that would genuinely matter to people years later.
And the billions just sort of followed naturally because those assets held their value, culturally and financially. So the final thought we want to leave you with today is this. What if you stopped thinking just about trading your time for money right now? What if you started thinking about building something, anything really today that could still be generating value or meaning or influence 20 or 30 years from now?